Hey guys, welcome back to Column Connection. I'm Will, joined by the Fossil there in Patterson Lakes. Another close win, Fossil. You got to be a happy man this weekend.
I'll tell you what, we were lucky we got the 4 points, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a heart attack if they keep going this way. We get 3 goals up and we can get to 30 or 40 so the Fossil can relax, mate. But they like to keep me on my toes. But like you said, it's fairly tight, but 4 points is 4 points, Will, and we're still in the hunt.
Exactly. And I've got a bit of criticism online. This is obviously those Collingwood haters. And thank you everyone for the contributions to Flag Pies. It's absolutely booming, Fossil. I think they don't like our opinions and we stick up for our club. But yeah, they say, oh, you haven't played anyone of value yet. I said, well, the other option is for us to lose. So I don't know what you want us to do. But anyway, the fixture is a fixture. And now we've got a big game next week against the Blue Baggers. Might be 90,000 plus. They did get touched up last night, but in pretty torrential rain you had there in Melbourne, Fossil.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, did you come down? We tell you what, mate. I was going up the shops. I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me, but yeah, no, it was night and wet. But like you said, with the results of the games, Williams, he's up for grabs. He's getting pretty tight. There's last 6 or 8 sides, but which is good for the competition, I suppose. But like you said, I think if we can get a reasonable night next week and the members turn up, they could probably get 95. Will I think because they've both got very lot of supporters. So we'll wait and see what happens. But
Yeah,
we're still in the hunt, and like you said, well, we can only win. That's all we can do.
exactly. And hopefully that weather holds up for the Melburnians. It's a 50-50 chance as usual. But I was going to say quickly, Fossil, you weren't a fan. We're talking over the last couple of years about the top 10. So has your views changed now, or do you think it's still a bit crap that most of the competition get to play finals, as they say?
Well, it's probably the only place in the world that does it this way, William. But it is interesting, though. I must admit, like I was always thought the top eight was good when they only had the 18 sides. But I suppose with the 19 side coming in, but the league would be probably rubbing their hands together, William. But and the supporters that keeps the teams interested, so I think they've done all right there.
Well,
There's a
the,
few
the
places
debate
like.
is the debate is always, does this mean less dead rubbers? And then the flip side of that is saying, no, you need to earn your spot top eight out of 18 teams, which, I guess that's the sort of older way of thinking. But then again, it does make games a lot more interesting. I think down to about 14th or 13th on the ladder still have a fighting chance. So, that's probably the flip side of it all. It probably is for money with the league as it always is. But anyway, Fossil will we'll work that out as long as the buyers qualify. I think we'll be pretty happy at this point. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
definitely right.
another close one, guys. The buyers getting home by 4 points and 4 wins on the trot. So we can't really complain at the moment, Fossil. And where the Kings are a close finish, 6 points last week and 4 points obviously on Friday. Timmy Membry was clutch, and your man Joshy Dacos, he stepped up finally. Fossil, you're not allowed to tip him anymore for high possessions because he does it whenever you don't. So yeah, no, great game by the boys, and couple of big talking points obviously to come out of it. One's involving injuries and suspensions, Fossils. So Jack Crisp is free to play, even though that tackle on Blemires led to a concussion. So really hard to gauge where the league looks at that, and that's good news for us. But the confusing part is Billy Frampton is he's copped a week suspension, Fossil, for rough conduct on that tackle on Whitlock in the goal square. What are your first thoughts on that?
I think they'll have to appeal that one, Will. But the problem is they like they're so inconsistent. With this match review and everything like that. So yeah, it's hard to say. Like you said, they let Chris off, and then Frampton's got a front. I think he's got a week, hasn't he? So they'll probably appeal that because like if we lose him, William, it's going to make us a bit short down in the back line. But anyway, we'll let the process go and see what happens. But yeah, but I think because that ground's a lot harder too, Will, than the other grounds. It might be a lot worse than it was, but I'm sure the club will try and do their best to fight it, and hopefully he can get off. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, it's in that tackle motion though. I think Frampton did everything possible. Like a lot of people are saying the game's dead because you're taught to tackle the opponent and he's running into an open goal. What else are you going to
Yeah.
do? You let him
Mm.
kick the goal otherwise. And I think it was a great effort by Frampton. But he instead of driving straight into the player and pushing him headfirst into the ground, he turned. And Frampton's body actually went off to the side, and then both arms pinned is probably where they come back to on this. But I think Frampton in himself did everything he could to try and protect the player. It's just unfortunate in that motion his head's hit the ground. So,
Yeah.
what yeah, what do you do, Fossil? It's natural instinct versus, this rules that they keep changing and bringing in. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think you spotted there, Will. And the other thing too, Will, I don't think there was two motions, so that might be a thing that might be in his favour. You know how sometimes they tackle him and then they sort of tackle him and then they go again with another motion, so that might help him. I'm not 100% sure, but like you said, well, that's what you're taught to tackle, and that's the way it is. Unfortunately, these things are going to happen, but hopefully the club will fight it and hopefully he can get off.
Yeah, fingers crossed he got off last time, and hopefully we have his track record, and maybe that was what contributed to Jack Crisp as well, getting off without anything in the end. So Crispy's record stands, and a couple of unfortunate injuries to look at. Fossil Schultze with the syndesmosis. I don't need to tell you how important he is to our side. He's just a heart and soul type of player, and would have been very valuable next week against the Blues and the games after that. So 6 to 8 weeks, it looks like we won't be having Schultze around. And also, Jeremy Howe is also battling a groin issue at the moment. Yeah, obviously, who do you think comes in for Schultze, and what happens if Jeremy Howe doesn't get up for next week?
Yeah, well, they're in a bit of trouble there, William, because they're a bit light down. Well, depending on the condition, William, but probably like if we get Quanar back, I think that'll be good. And I think, like you said too, there's Sullivan, Coe, Steele, Harrison, these sort of blokes I'll probably look at. But if Howe for some reason or Frampton for some reason did miss William, what I would do is I would bring Coe in to help Cameron in the ruck, and then Cameron can go down back. Like you have a look at the marks he took there last week, and he's been doing it all year. I think that might be one thing they might look at, one from left field maybe, and then like you said, I think Sullivan, Ryan, Harrison, Steele, Quanar, these sort of blokes, they'll probably look at those ones, I'd say, in the twos. Because, and also, too, unfortunately, I think Buller's going to have to go back for a spell, Will, and try and find a bit of form. So, yeah, there could be three or four changes, William, depending on, if the players come up or not. But, well, that's what the guys have got to do, put their hands up in the twos, and if they get a chance, hopefully they can grab it. So, we'll just have to wait and see, but it will be interesting at selection, especially if Howell and Frampton are out.
Yeah, well, that leaves us pretty depleted, and Schultz, the up forward, is very important for us. Yeah, interesting. If Coe does come in and Cameron goes back, it's not meaning to throw daggers here, but Darcy Moore, used to crash the packs, and you said a lot this year we've been spoiling each other, but it seems like the communication with Frampton, Puncher, and Cameron seems to be a lot more fluent, a lot more working together. So, yeah, obviously we miss our boy Murphy, Nathan Murphy,
Yeah.
and yeah, he used to do a really good role there with Moore. But yeah, I guess we haven't got him for the rest of the year. So yeah, Coe, if he does get a debut next week, so best of luck to him. And with the small forwards, I think we got Harrison, you got Hayes, so a couple of guys to come in for Schultze, but a bloke like McCreary, a lot of pressure on the weekend, but he's going to have to keep that going now because we've lost another pressure forward, and yeah, they need to keep that going because that's when we're playing our best.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there. Well, it may be too, depending on the conditions. Well, they might go a little bit smaller because Carlton are fairly quick and they haven't got a lot of big tools. So maybe they might look at, like you said, those smaller type players, depending on the conditions. But yeah, they'll have a bit of thinking to do at selection this week, Will. But like you said, Schultz is going to be a massive blow. Like the Phillies, the Phillies boots mate, he's been doing really well. So yeah, so we should see which way they go next week.
Yeah, find a way to find the big sticks too. We've been pretty good the last 3 weeks, but if you told anyone that you wouldn't have Elliot, Steen, Bobby Hill, and Lockie Schultz, you'd start to wonder who's going to come in. So I guess we get to see those younger players, and this is their chance now to step up, secure a spot in the side. Like your boy Ryan Steele had a good game on the weekend, but we'll touch on that later. So with this game itself, Fossils, so getting the job done by 4 points against the plucky Kangaroos. Yeah, under the lid at Marvel, it was it was a good game. I think in the context because it was close, but it was a hard watch at times. Nick Larkey liked to keep us in the game a bit. Fossil, he had a few shots early, and could have hand passed over the top of the Sheasel for that first goal, but he ends up hitting the post from 10 meters out. So he really did his best to keep us in it. And yeah, I reckon he could have taken the game away. He had 3 goals, four. A couple of them didn't score at all. He fell short or out of bounds. So it's just, yeah, it could have been one of those games for Larky. And Jack Darling had a miss late to probably take the game away from us. So the Pies held tough though in that first quarter. We ended up by a goal in the end, but geez, it just seemed like at times the play was really hard to come by. Just getting that ball inside 50 and hitting up those forwards is a lot of the bad habits we fell back into on the weekend. It looked like.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're right, Will. But like they turned the ball over a couple of times and gave them easy goals. But I tell you what, William, when they got the ball off half back and they ran through the centre of the ground and they used it properly, then the forwards were leading up, William, and that's where we got our goals.
Mm.
When we didn't get our goals, we were just bombing it in there and bulling them at stay on 2 or 3 occasions. Sport one another. I don't know if they can't hear one another or they can't see one another, Will, but it looked really bad. But like I said, when they moved it through the middle of the ground, it was really good, and the goals just seemed to come easy. Well, like the forwards would lead up, and then when you got blokes like Dacos to go in, these sort of blokes delivering the ball to you, it just looks so much easier when it looks nice and fluid. And I thought they worked really well in that first quarter. Howe was magnificent across half back in the first quarter. Well, they were absolutely on fire, and then they ran the ball and they looked really, really good. But like I said, when they bomb it up to the forward line, it makes it a bit hard because that Cherry, he's a big man. He gets back, and then, like I said, Buller's fighting a couple of them. But yeah, I think he's going to have to go back well and try and find a bit of form. So there'd be probably a move. They might make another move up there with Podaski or West or somebody like that. I'm not quite sure, but they need another key forward.
We're desperate for that fossil in the off season. People are saying let's go after King. It looks like the Hawks might get him, unfortunately, but yeah, we need to find somebody because we just really lack that power forward to take us through. And McStay and Membry, they've been serviceable and fair enough. They've done their jobs this year, but yeah, we just need that big power forward. And I did have Buller in my negative, so I'll get that out of the way. Yeah, he just looks out of touch, and I will say he did have a chance in the forward pocket. I think it was might have been the second quarter even, but he had that chance to get a mark. He got his arms chopped, so I do feel for him there. But when he had that moment, 30 metres out directly in front in the third quarter, and I thought, oh, please just put it through, get your confidence up. And he nearly kicked it out of bounds on the full fossil. So you know when you're off, you're off. And I think a couple of weeks in the VFL will do him some good. With that second quarter, though, this is why he featured in my votes later, but Jordan De Goey, he really came to life. Only one disposal in the first quarter, but then 15 in the second. So he really lit it up for us and helped us get that drive going forward. And we started to get on top of things, going into half time, but we just didn't seem to be putting it enough on the scoreboard. I think we always kept about that goal to 2 goal margin, but then the Kangaroos would get a couple chance goals back, and then it sort of ebbed and flowed like this into the third quarter. So, like I said, not the prettiest affair, but individual efforts was what was going to get it done. Going to that fourth quarter, we were, nearly neck and neck, and then the Kangaroos they slammed on about 3 or 4 goals, and they were up by 9 points, Fossil, with 10 minutes to go. So it really left us to fight it out.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, William. And I think too, where North sort of got on top a little bit too, William, they seemed to spread our back line a bit there for a while, and then the boys sort of gathered, and then I think Cameron went down and helped out a couple of times, but they looked really dangerous, one on one, and when the ball hit the deck, they were using their pace a little bit, and like you said, they got to 9 up, but the boys kept going and fought back hard, as they normally do. They give them 100%, but we were very lucky, William. I tell you what, like you said before, Larky could have just, stitched the game up, but the fighting spirit was there, William, and that's all they can do, and they just kept at it, and that was a nice goal from memory, and like I said, because with him and McStade, like you said, William, they work up the ground. We do need another key target, but hopefully they can just do with the best they got. But we've got the 4 points, Will. That's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the play before that, when you're on, you're on. The one where Jack Crisp got on the end of it, but that Joshy Dacos, the hand pass up the ground. I think I can't remember who gave it to him. Maybe it was Pendlebury, but put it out in front of him, and he just toe poked it straight into the path of Crisp. I thought, geez, they have some incredible skills, these Dacos boys. I think we're very lucky to have them possible, but. they're in our side. They're our star players, so that's what they're there to do in the end. And yeah, we got the job done. Timmy Membry, I was a little bit concerned because right on half time, he had that shot from a similar position. He didn't even score, so my confidence is usually really high in Timmy. But yeah, just going to that one, he absolutely flushed it from 50 meters. So no, he's good
Yeah.
value, and definitely he's kicked 10 goals the last 4 games. So we were very critical of him at the start of the year, but I'll give him his flowers. He's really putting his hand up for another contract, and even if it's a rolling 1 year contract, I think that right now you'd have to say he's getting a contract for 2027. So well done there to Timmy Membry. And we'll get to the negatives I touched on before, Bullard, but just the turnovers galore, Fossil, from both sides. Just absolutely butchering it. It just seemed like at one point the aerial ping pong was back. They were kicking it to North Melbourne. North Melbourne were kicking it to Collingwood. So yeah, some of those games look pretty ugly, and sometimes they bring you down to that standard. But I will say, like I said in our written preview that we do, that North had won 6 out of the 7 times they played there this year, and their only loss was to Sydney by 8 points. So they're a pretty hard opposition at Marvel Stadium, and our boys good to get the result, and that obviously keeps our momentum going. Couple of positives out of the game, Fossil.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, yeah. Well, I think the big positive, I think, for me is young Ed Allen William. He's given the jobs on the best players every week. He played on LDU, and I thought he did a magnificent job. He had 17 disposals, 3 marks, and 11 tackles. And I think it's a great learning experience for him, William. And I think he's only going to get better and better and better. You can see, like, he's a lot more confident now, and he doesn't mind getting in there having a crack. And I think he's one of the ones that the boys have got to sign up, because I reckon he's just getting better every week, William, and he's going to be the one of the future younger ones for the club. So hopefully they can get him signed up on a good contract. But I was very impressed with him, and like I said, the team overall, they did a pretty good job. Well, it was fairly hard to score in that last quarter because both teams had a loose man in defence, so they sort of clogged it up. So but we're lucky enough we're in front when the siren went, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. They never stop fighting, Fossil, which is what you want to see. Take us in then to your our CC Player of the Year votes, Fossil. Start with your 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, well, I gave Alan one, William, like I said, for his 17 disposals, 3 marks, and 11 tackles. I thought he did magnificent. He could have raffled the second one, but I thought Lipinski was really good, William. He had 19 disposals, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and in a fairly low scoring game, he kicked 2 goals too. So I thought he was very, very good. And my boy, Joshy Dacos, William, 33 disposals, 10 marks, 6 tackles. And like he's field kicking like his brother is just an absolute delight. It reminds me a bit about the fossil when I was playing back in my
How
day,
did I
William.
know? How did I know that was going to come up? Fossil, like I never had the pleasure to see you play. Obviously, I was a pea in the ocean, as you say. But I'm sure you were very good. But I won't forget you kicked 1 goal late in one game. You tell us about what was your best goals overall? Did you ever kick a
I,
bag of five
I think
or?
he kicked about to 3 will one day, but yeah,
That's
one
all
eight. It
right.
was very, very trying conditions. But getting back to the Dacos, William, how they just put the ball out in front and the players run to it. The backmen have got no hope of spoiling, and that's what they did when they moved the ball through the centre of the ground. And it's just a delight to watch it. We're just so lucky we got those two boys in the side.
And
They're magnificent.
like you say, Peter, he should have been put out to start and made a couple more brothers. I
Yes,
think
it
we've
would have
been
been nice. Would have been nice with imagine 4 of them running around in the side.
the AFL would make a system. We can't get too many Dacoses in
Exactly.
the
No,
one
no,
side.
but they did well, but he used the ball really well, William, and he was really, really good. Yeah. Well, it was a good team effort, but I just like the way they delivered the ball. The forwards must be laughing, licking their lips. They're all running up and
Exactly.
neck up the belt.
And we touched on last. Well, I will give Lipinski his flowers. So he almost hit that game sealer, but he had to hit the post there. And let's not start about the art controversy, Fossil, because somehow the umpire, the same goal umpire, the ball's about a foot short when Sheasel has a shot at goal, and he calls it a goal. And then the one that looks like a goal, which looks like it was well and truly behind, he says, "Oh, inconclusive," but I think it's a point. You just got no idea. And
Well, he shouldn't
Craig
say
McRae.
anything, William.
Craig McRae. No, well, this is the thing. The goal umpire is meant to make a decision, but as Craig McRae said, he's seen better technology, and even with ball tracking, you wonder why. How don't we have this in 2026? Like they've got it in tennis, they've got it in cricket, obviously for LBW calls and whatever. But couldn't they just simply have a scan of the post and say Yes, that ball's over the line. No, that ball's not over the line. I know it's on the point of did the player touch it, but even from those angles, you can't even tell. Like he could have got a fingertip to it, but that also you remember that spoil by Jeremy Howe when he was swearing because it went over the back and went through the goals. They did a slow mo picture and it looked like it brushed his arm. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you can't be perfect, but just the AFL, seriously, the amount of money that's spent on this, it's just not getting any benefit out of it, at this
Yeah,
point.
no, you're spot on there, William. And like you said, they've got the stuff there. It's either that, William, or they throw it to the shies and ours and let the umpire make the decision, and that's it.
Well,
You
we
know, they
we
used to
seem to
do
have
it back
less arguments, yeah, back in the day. Yeah,
back in
yeah.
the day. Well, that's what they used to do. But yeah, because they said on that frames, apparently, like it looks like they've touched it, but on this news system, apparently it shows, we're missing a frame or something, and
Yeah,
it's
but
not touched.
Fossil, I know you're not the greatest technology mind, no offense, but
No,
today's technology, Fossil, they could definitely be seeing it. I think Craig McRae, probably along with other coaches, has seen a sample of what they are showing. But then you just go, why isn't this in the game right now? This is 2026. Like seriously, they got slow motion and all this stuff. Anyway, let's not dive too deep into that. I'll get to my votes. So. The three votes, like you said, Josh Dacos. The Dacos boys, they will play us to those spots, Fossil. They just kick it out in front and say, "This is where you need to be. I'm going to kick the ball there," and they put it on a platter for them, like you said. So the boys would be laughing every time they see a Dacos with the ball in their hands. I did give the two votes. I'll just to our boy Nicky Dacos. I know it wasn't his biggest game, but considering how sore he is and he played majority time up forward. He has a season low 28 disposals Fossil, which isn't too bad, and kicks that important goal in the last quarter. So he just absolutely wills himself to get the job done. And I just want to point out that last defensive play where he ran down Sheasel and then the boys locked it in, that his haters, and that it's pure jealousy because no one can seriously look at Nick Dacos and say he flops or he doesn't do this and that because they just try and criticize every piece of his game. But the defensive game is where people say, oh, he doesn't play defense and he doesn't get contested possession. Well, he just proved them all wrong. He gut busted through the middle of the ground to lay a tackle. Before that, he was gut busting to get us that shot with Tim Embry to secure the game. So, he does it both ways. And the haters, they're always going to be critical. And we are Collingwood, so we just should get used to it because they're never going to be happy as long as Collingwood are winning. So hopefully we can keep them feeling that way, Fossil. And the one vote I gave was to Jordan Goey. I think that second quarter was very important. One disposal in the first, you wondered if he was getting shut out of the game by young Sullivan, but yeah, 15 disposals and really kept us ticking along in that second quarter. So yeah, well done there to DeGoey as well. And our CC Player of the Year leaderboard Fossil, I'll just get that up, is Nick Dacos, no surprise, on 61. There's, the Flemington straight between him and Jordan DeGoey on 22 and your boy Houston on 19. So yeah, bit of a gap in between at the moment, Foss.
yeah, and it'll be just interesting to see what your two mates say. I'll be listening tomorrow, William, Barrett and bloody King, and see what they've got to say about the game. So,
Oh
we'll,
yeah. Yeah,
so I'll
no,
tune in. I'll
our
tune
mate.
in.
Yeah, if you haven't caught it, guys, go on the Facebook page Flag Pies, and thank you for the amount of support this week and people sharing the stories. Fossil, I just like to give my two bobs worth, and whether you agree or not, that's fine. I love to see the back and forth in the comments. Everyone says we're one-eyed, Fossil. I don't really get it. It's like we stick up for our own club or something. So it's
Yeah,
no, thanks for that.
exactly.
And yeah, no, King will be filthy, even though he'll pretend he's not. And Damien Barrett will go, oh, this is North Melbourne, this is what they do. But they tried everything they could last week to rub out Maynard themselves, and they couldn't do it. The commentators are there to commentate the game. So if I was in that position, I know it's hard when it's your own team, but this is why you try not to be biased. But my God, he was death by media last week for Maynard. And anyway, he got the 4 points, so that's all that matters, Foss.
Exactly right, Will. Exactly right.
All right, and we'll finish off with that. Oh, sorry, guys, the game day prediction. So $30 voucher was up for grabs, and very low fossil. Unfortunately, Schultz went down with that injury, but 3 goals and 41 touches between I think it was Dacos and Crispy. I think it was. Crisp had 13 touches, fossil. I could have sworn he had more impact on the game than 13
Yeah,
touches.
he looked like it, didn't he? He seemed to be to play a lot more, but it's very deceiving. Yeah, he seemed to be, every time you sort of looked, he was there, but that's the way it goes. But they all did their little bits and pieces, and that's what we hope for, Will.
Yeah, well, it's good because he's not Will Hoskin Elliott, but you can chuck him pretty much anywhere. If you say we need you to go forward, he can kick goals like he did against Gold Coast last week. He went to the centre, got a couple centre clearances. So wherever we need him, and you need those sort of players to just be flexible and give De Goey a chop out, give Nick Dacos a chop out. So yeah, that's what he's there for, and that record stands as we know. So unfortunately, guys, no winners this week, but $40 next week against the Blue Baggers. So that will be posted Friday. I guess it's a Saturday night game, so I'll post it maybe later there on Friday. And the VFL Fossil, like I said, they had a decent win. The boys they got the job done by 43 points over North Melbourne. Just a couple of standout players. Your boy Rowan Steele's putting his hand up for another go. Ryan was efficient once again, 23 touches, and he's having a good month of form, really. So hopefully he might get his opportunity soon, but our backline seems pretty stacked. Lockie Sullivan, again, 22 touches and doing his work. But I reckon a little smoky for this week, Fossil, is Joel Cochran. He had 21 touches, 8 marks, but had a lot of influence there in the game. So I reckon Cochran might be a little bit of a smoky to get his debut this week.
Yeah, no, well, it's true too, Will, because you can play back and you can play forward, and like you said, depends on Frampton and Howe and who's in and who's out. But yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise at all, Will, because he's got a bit of size about himself. So, and like I said, he can go forward or back, so he might be one that they might look at,
Mm.
depending on the matchups and who's available. But it's not a bad call, Will.
Yeah, and between Fossil, just one quick one. Padaski, 2 goals, 12 touches, 6 marks. Charlie West, 1 goal, three, 9 disposals, 6 marks. So pretty much that Ben King like lead up target and that sort of player. So who are you picking next week if it's your call for Carlton?
I'd probably go with Podatsky, I think, because he can move up the ground a bit more with him, but not that we really need that. But if him and Memory are up the ground, and then hopefully McStay can stay in the square, or something like that. But I think they need the three. They need the three, and because Memory and McStay do work up the ground, and hopefully if they do that, well, Podaski can stay at home. But yeah, it's going to be a tough, tough selection this week, Will. But like you said, there's a few putting their hand up, which is good. But I like Steele though, William. I'm glad he's back in form, and Ryan. At some stage they're going to deserve their chances, but depends who's available and who's not. So it'll be very interesting to see on Thursday what the side is.
Exactly. We're all couch experts, as they say, fossil armchair experts, whatever you want to say. So fingers crossed. I'd personally go for West. I just think he's a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. They're similar size, but he's more of that key forward. I just think Membry and Padaski are pretty much the same player. So hard to say unless they go for four tools, which works one week, doesn't work the next week. So very interesting. But if your boy Co gets his debut, then they might just try and manufacture that because the Blues they unearthed a 209 centimeter debutant last night. So if they do go with two ruckmen or two big fellas, if Pitney does come back, then I reckon we should give Co and Cameron that shot, and then Cameron can either go back or they can go forward. So anyway, makes for an interesting week ahead, guys, and let's hope that Billy Frampton, if he can get off, he's obviously very important for us. And if he wasn't Collingwood Fossil or didn't have this stigma about him, he'd probably be an All Australian conversation. So anyway, we'll leave
Yeah.
that for another time. But thanks, guys. Thanks for sending in all your predictions and getting a part of the Facebook group Magpies. We'll continue with our discussion points as usual. But other than that, enjoy the win, guys, and have a great week ahead as we look forward to the old arch nemesis Fossil Carlton at the MCG. That's an absolute blockbuster event coming up.
Yeah, no, she's going to be absolutely huge, William, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk through the week about these two sides. And then, yeah, I think she'll be an absolute cracker, and they'll get 95, I reckon, Will.
Perfect. All right, guys. Until next time, go Pies. We'll see you then.
Go Pies. See ya.